for Michigan State Senate, 14th District, Sue Shink. Sue, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
So how's it feel? Last few days of the campaign.
Yeah, we're getting down to the end of the campaign, and the days are getting shorter, so I think it's good. I've met so many wonderful people over the course of the campaign, and I'm really grateful, and I'm going to be out working to meet more people between now and Election Day. So
it's a lot of work to run for office, and I give everyone credit that's running for office, putting themselves out there, and what a time sacrifice just in the campaign. I've seen you a few times in Jackson, so what are people saying when you knock on doors? Are they actually giving you their issues and things they'd like you to work on?
Yeah, so it really, it's been great. People are waiting, a lot of people are waiting for an opportunity for someone to say, hey, what's on your mind? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I really hear is, people want to trust in their representative. They want to trust in government that when I go to Lansing, I'm going to be working for you. And that I'm listening and putting the time in to really understand what's going on and work with the community to find a solution for whatever it is that's facing us, but that I am also here to participate in the celebrations and the joys. And so I'm here for all of that. It's been wonderful. People do have other more specific concerns. I've talked to a lot of families that have young people who are experiencing some sort of mental health crisis, and they want more resources to treat their children. So young people might be on a waiting list even for weeks or months to get into therapy, and then sometimes it doesn't last long enough to address the need. Another thing that I've heard is in Jackson particularly, a desire for more stores, for some grocery store on the south side, and people are really concerned about that. People are concerned about the schools having enough funding so that their kids are learning the basic skills that they need to succeed in life, and then also that we're taking care of our environment. And of course, continuing work on the roads. So although 16,000 miles across Michigan have been repaired in the last little while, there's still a lot more to go.
So education, that one of the issues facing school districts, they can't find teachers, and they're competing with one another. They're poaching,
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So what can the state do to, one, ensure that there's a supply of qualified teachers, and that there are people that want to be teachers, and the districts can afford to have quality teachers?
So the Michigan Senate Democrats have a plan to draw more people into the teaching profession by actually helping to pay some of the tuition for people who are entering teaching. And so there would be a requirement at the end that people would continue to teach for a number of years. I believe it's at least 4 years in a public school, and then their tuition will be forgiven. And so I think that's a really good way. That's a way for people to go to college, have a useful degree, and come out without debt at the end. And so there's that, and then there's also a lot of will on the part of the Senate Democrats to allocate more money for education and make sure that it's getting to the teachers and it's getting to the students. Because as I know we talked about in the summer, teachers need to be able to afford to live in the communities where they teach. They're an integral part of the community, they're involved in the after-school activities, and they want to raise their families there.
Yeah, and they want to be safe too. And
Yes.
School safety is another issue. What are the things that Lansing, our government, can do to make our kids safe in schools?
Yeah, so it's a pretty big deal. I know, I don't know if I told you this before, but after the Oxford shooting, my daughter's in high school, and they had some threats in their school, and the kids just left. And then later on, we got a call from the school about the situation, but my daughter had been gone for hours. And it's scary. The kids know that the teachers can't necessarily keep them safe. And so I'm a gun sense candidate. Moms demand gun sense. And I'm a responsible gun owner myself. We have a gun, but we keep it locked. We keep the ammunition in a separate room. There are some laws that can help reduce that kind of mass gun violence. Red flag laws, we don't have those here. Background checks, closing some of those loopholes for the gun show sales, and making sure that people who have been involved in a violent crime don't have access, violent intimate partner crime, don't have access to weapons. So we have some laws around that, and there's been a bit of a bipartisan push, but we can do better. And I've talked to people who identify as Republicans, people who identify as Democrats. People want people to be safe. They want to be safe. They want their children to be safe, their grandchildren to be safe. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about preventing crime.
Yeah, you bring up there's differences between Republicans and Democrats, and in Lansing over the last couple of years, we've seen pretty much a stalemate between the governor, a Democrat, and the House and Senate, both Republican majority. And Michiganders are frustrated that there's not communication and cooperation going on in Lansing. What can you do about that?
Yeah, so I do know that the governor has passed, or I'm sorry, hasn't passed, has signed 900 bipartisan bills, and that's pretty exciting. But I was up in Lansing the day before the last budget was passed, and the Democrats hadn't even seen it. The Republicans hadn't shown it to them. And so I think there's some basic decency that I would participate in, right, if I'm elected, to respect the people who aren't Democrats who are serving with me, to make sure that they get the information that they need to succeed as well. And I was thinking about when I was in law school, one of the first classes I had was contracts. And our professor taught us about negotiating. And it wasn't that everybody should walk away from the table dissatisfied. It was, let's find out what everybody needs, what everybody wants. And then whatever somebody wants that isn't going to hurt the other party, let's just put that right there on the table. So it's a win-win kind of negotiating. And if we had more of that, our state would be better off, because when we work better, we do better.
Well, the number one issue, according to the polls that have been conducted nationwide, this election is the economy.
Yeah.
The inflation, the prices, the gas, groceries, are the things. Is it and obviously it's worldwide. Everybody knows the pandemics and supply chain. We've seen all the reasons, but what are the solutions? And is there a state level solution to save Michiganders money?
Yeah, so I think there are some things that the state can do, and there are some things that are in the governor's plan, and so in the Senate Democrats' plan, so in my plan, to increase the child credit, increase the earned income tax credit, subsidize child care. So I've been part of an effort in Washtenaw County. It's called TRICARE. It's sort of experimental or pilot, but we're looking at putting it across the state, where the state pays a third, the employer pays a third, and the family pays a third of child care, and that helps parents get to work. And then there's some other things to do, like reducing fees for service, which we have already been doing in Washtenaw County, finding other ways to pay for it. And then another thing that we're doing in Washtenaw County is looking at other ways to fund our court system so that fines and fees are not punitive in the court system. And so these are things that affect regular people who are struggling with their budgets. And then there's one more thing I forgot to mention, which is increasing the SNAP benefit for families, so they're getting a bit more assistance each month to buy food, because food prices have gone up too. And while we can't affect international monetary policy or the Federal Reserve interest rate, we can do those kinds of things to support our families.
Well, for those that didn't see Sue when she was with us earlier this year, tell us a little bit about, outside of running for office, your family and your background.
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer by training. I'm also a farmer. We live on a small farm north of Ann Arbor, where we've got horses, ducks, chickens, and goats, and then dogs and cats. And my husband, before I was running, my husband and I had been spending a lot of time replanting some of those areas into native plants, so supporting bees and other wild pollinators. And then my daughters are all adults now. I have one still in high school. She just turned 18. And the other two had gone off to Michigan State, and I went to U of M, so we have a little bit of rivalry, just enough for fun. And they're back in the area. And so that, when I think about policy, obviously we've got a whole district to serve, right? There are a lot of families across the district who want their children to be able to come back home and live here and have good jobs. And so, you know, those kinds of things can help inform my thinking about what do we want to achieve here. And so, you know, it's really an exciting time. And I know you asked me about my family. I start talking about policy again. And you could ask my kids. We talk about policy at dinner. We talk about policy all the time. And it's just one of those things that it interweaves with everybody's life so much. And the decisions that we make in Lansing make a difference at your table, in your gas tank, you know, in your everything you do. So.
And you have run for office. You've been on the board of the county, Washtenaw County Board, and chair.
Yeah.
Are there things that you look back on your years as chair or commissioner in Washtenaw that you're especially proud of?
Yeah, there are. And some of those things apply to how I can help our community as a state senator. So I've also served as a Northfield Township trustee, and so dealt with fire and law enforcement there. And then at the county, we've dealt with more issues. So public safety, I'm endorsed by our sheriff and working very hard to make sure that Washtenaw County is as safe as possible, and it is a very safe place. And so I'm proud of a lot of the things that we've done. During my tenure, we've got a new 911 and command center for our sheriff's office, and in case of a catastrophe, everybody can gather there and keep our community safe. We've increased our road maintenance. We've passed a millage, and I think there's funding from the state and other places. We don't have to pass a millage to make the roads better, but we do need to make sure our road commissions have enough money to take care of our local roads, because all that road reconstruction that's happening, that stops pretty much at I-94 or, you know, the interchange, and so we have local roads that need help too. I've been able to get broadband to everybody in Washtenaw County that's being built out over the next 2 years. So regardless of their zip code or their income, they're going to have broadband. And I know there are places in Jackson County that need that too. We can get that done. And then we've also been able to bring in money to help people repair their homes, to make them what we call weatherized, but we're talking new roofs, new windows, new doors, sometimes more efficient appliances. And those are things that I've heard people express a desire for here. So I could go on for hours. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me and giving me a few minutes to talk about it. I'm really excited about my record. I've been serving Washtenaw County for 4 years during the pandemic, and even during the pandemic, while we were busy saving lives, getting people vaccines and masks, we were able to keep pushing our policy forward to serve our residents.
Well, we appreciate you taking time to be with us here today.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back, and good luck.
Thank you.
Candidate for Michigan State Senate, the new 14th District, Sue Shink.